I am Araceli, a wealth advisor, real estate investor in the United States and Canada, and creator of Wealthy Women in Real Estate. Every week, I meet with Colette, a real estate broker and a real estate investor in Canada. We come together to talk about all things real estate investing and how to increase your wealth. Join us. Welcome everyone in my weekly chat with Colette. Today we have a very interesting subject. My name is Araceli, wealth advisor and real estate investor in the US and Canada. And today with my partner Colette. Colette, can you introduce yourself and tell us what we're talking about today?
Of course. Hi everybody, I'd love to. My name is Colette Rabba. I am a real estate broker in the GTA, West End. I like to work West End. And of course, I like to help income property buyers and owners get the best tenants, get the best property, and to actually make money. And that's why Araceli and I like to talk about real estate and finances, because they go hand in hand. And we would love to give information out there and answer all your questions. So please ask us whatever you need to if we don't discuss it. And today we are talking about what tenants actually want, because when I show a property to someone who is looking for an income property, I want to know who your ideal tenant will be looking at this property. That answers a lot of questions. That keeps you focused as a landlord. It really gives you the right path to go down when you're ready to become a landlord. So I have a little slide.
Show us. Yeah, I tell you, this is super important, especially if you're starting with a new property. When I first got my property, the only thing that I wanted to rent it, and it took me a couple of times to go through different tenants to really find out which tenant I wanted, because I was totally new. And it is super important that you have that in your head so you can attract that person. So
of course, yeah. So it makes a lot of sense, because you can buy whatever property, but if you think that it's, we'll go through it. Let's go through the list. So what tenants want? So, and thinking about ideal tenants before you buy a rental property is very, very important. So of course, people don't hold up signs to say, hi, we're a good tenant, look at us. So you really want to know who your ideal tenant is. You don't have to put it in the listing. You don't have to advertise it, but in your own head, if you are buying a condo, let's say, just for example, with one bedroom, you don't want a family of 20, right? Makes sense. If you are, and we're also talking about different kinds of properties, let's say Airbnb. So if you also want a family, then you know what kind of property you're looking for, what you can afford to attract those types of renters. Pretty simple, right?
Yeah,
There's something called the Human Rights Code, if people don't know what that is. You cannot say, I don't want this type of person, race, even I only want men. You can't say that in an ad. There are very specific rules to not be biased against anyone when you are renting. So keep that in mind. But still, if I say, okay, I have a one-bedroom apartment in my basement, I would like either a single person or a couple. That's my ideal tenant. I don't have to say that on the listing, but I'll know if I attract those people, that's who I really want. Like, if that makes sense to pretty much everybody, right?
Colette, I have a question here. What about putting no pets in the ad? Can you say that? Or is it that? No.
Well, okay, that's the interesting thing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second just so we can look at each other. So when it comes to no pets, you can say no pets on the listing, but if somebody does have a pet, you can't discriminate against that, because a lot of times it might be a pet that they need as a, let's say a seeing eye dog, or what is that called when now people are saying, I need my
guide dog?
For mental illness.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I forget what the term is, but anyway, so instead of saying no pets, that is one of the questions that you can ask before you get them in. And then the way I like to ask, and this is a little bit of a secret, you don't have to say, it's how you ask. So you just pretend that everybody has a pet. So the way you ask them is saying, you know, who are you? What do you do for your work? How much do you make a year? How many pets do you have and what kind? So instead of saying, do you have pets? You ask how many pets. So it's a little bit of a different thing in your head. And you can tell people the landlord does not want pets before you sign a lease. Once they move in and they do, let's say I don't have a pet right now, but I move into your property and I get a dog, you cannot kick me out because I got a pet after the fact.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna tell you. So what happens if they do damage on the property? So they, you know, cats scratch the wall or things like that.
That's a whole long story. Let's get back to our presentation.
Okay. All right, so we'll park that question.
Yeah, let's park it for now. Okay, let me share my screen again so we can go back. Okay, so seeing these beautiful people, yes, of course, everybody wants these, you know, lovely, wonderful looking young people to be tenants, but we all know that, you know, they could be the worst tenants too.
Yeah,
they
no kidding.
Drug dealers. You don't know by looking at them. You know, she's got this cute little smile on her face. I don't know, she's up to something. Anyway, so just follow the human rights code and you should be good. 3 things that tenants need across the board all the time, no matter what the market is, no matter where you live, no matter what kind of property you have. Most people want safety and comfort. They want everything in working order, and they want to have good communication with their landlord or their property manager. So across the board, doesn't matter where you live, if it's even in Canada or somewhere else. And why I say, I'll get back to the good communication. So creating a safe space means lots of different things to lots of different people. So first of all, you want, ideally, I will only buy it if I know the neighborhood is safe. So I look at the demographics, I look at the crime rate, and then I tell my clients, okay, this is a great neighborhood or not. Have a good locking system on the doors and windows. This is the thing. I hear so many times, somebody open their window, they leave it open, they get a break-in because that lock just was not working. So as a landlord, it's their responsibility to have the locks on the windows and the doors. Any outside cameras, that's really high end if you really want to give them that peace of mind. As an Airbnb owner, I do have an outside camera because I'm not there all the time and it's not rented all the time. So I want to know what's going on. And I also want to see if they say there's only 5 people coming, I don't want 20 people coming because then that's a violation of the Airbnb rules. So cameras are good, but they can only be outside for Airbnb or as a private home as well. You can't do that inside. And also keyless entry is great. Keyless entries are great. I don't know if you have one, but
yeah, I do have one in my property because, you know, I always keep forgetting the keys, but I know the code, so I can just go
Of course. Yeah, and also for Airbnb. So the picture of this woman, it's not me. I wish it was me right now sitting on a beach. But this woman has a system that she can unlock it from her phone. Even if they get locked out or their code, they forgot their code, you can actually find a product like this where you can control it with your phone, which is fantastic. And this is everything in working order. So that's not just appliances, but it also means the workings of the house, like the water heater, the furnace, any mechanical stuff like the hot water heater, but also the things like the keyless entry system or any electronics, the shut off for the water and how to shut the power off are very, very important if something hits the fan. And then anything else, and write it into the lease that they need to maintain. So let's say snow shoveling or grass cutting or all these things, the inner workings of the property. How to change a light bulb sometimes. Don't even go there with me because sometimes people will ask. So, and then if you do have a property manager too, they might even create a little booklet for you. But as a Airbnb owner or even as a long-term tenant, there's always little things that they might know, like why is my washer and dryer blinking? What does that mean? So instead of getting that phone call, which there's nothing wrong with that, you could put it in a booklet.
Yeah.
Communication. Hey, my favorite subject. We know we have to be on call 24/7 or you hire a property manager. But there is an agreed upon respect, if I can say it that way, with the landlord, with the tenant. I'm not going to call my tenant at 3 a.m. unless it's an emergency. I expect the same in return. But be available during business hours 9 to 5 by email. It's always best to have requests in writing as well, because if something happens to the property and you can say to the tenant, hey, I didn't get anything in writing, they want to prove it. You both need to prove it if you did get it in writing or not. So
Yeah,
I highly suggest. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I always tell people, like if you do have, make a file for your tenant, and if there is any issues at all that you discuss with them, make a note, the date, the time, when you talk to them. If you can send an email or a text message, something that has a record that you talk to them about something in particular, put it in there, because you never know if that tenant eventually is going to continue doing it, and it's going to be a cause for you to take them to court or anything like that, or how you can evict them.
Proof.
Yeah, you need proof of everything.
Right.
Same
So
with payment, right? Like if they pay you cash, I try not to take cash at all, but if you do, give them a receipt, right?
always. Yeah, always give a receipt.
Because you have to go back and they can say, well, we gave you the money, but
Right.
I
Absolutely.
didn't get it, right?
And I just have to say one thing too, even though text is technically in writing, it's always best to send an email, because it's very hard to track a text after you have 5,000 other texts after that. So emails are always easier, and then you can even have a file for those emails for that specific tenant if you have more than one door. So, you know, really think about your organization too, but always communicate and always try and answer them right away, especially if it's an emergency. And if you can't, try and have a secondary person. So let's say I have a husband, and my husband is the second phone call that if I can't be reached, I'm in a business meeting or something. Or a partner. Like, this is the thing, what's great about having a business partner, you're both on call. You don't have to be 24/7. You take this shift and you take this shift. So there's lots of ways to work around that, but always communicate. So that's it. That's our little quick little blurb, because I think ultimately it's knowing, okay, fine, of course I want an income property, and I want all the magic that goes with saying I own an income property, but the reality of it is, do you want that lifestyle, right? Never mind costs, never mind you know, having this wonderful income coming in. What are you getting out of it?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And the thing is, sometimes it can be only temporarily. Like, I've seen people that they want to increase their income by renting a portion of their home, which is great, but they say, well, we only need it for a little bit. So in that case, you really need to be sure of what kind of tenant you want, because if you have somebody that is really loud, that is going to be living in the basement, they might not work for you, especially if you have younger kids. So all of that, that's what is so important, to have this in your head. Who is it going to be?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you do have a nice property that it has all the safe and everything else, you shouldn't be having a problem getting the tenant that you want. But it's important, the vision. The vision is very important.
Yeah, and I always like to have it from a very personal standpoint, because and this is the thing that a lot of investors say, don't do that, but I follow that rule, where would I live here? Would I live here, and why? So that really makes you be able to sell it or get a tenant, you know, to entice those tenants to say, hey, I picked a safe neighborhood. You know, I have all the great little doodads and you know, extras that a person like me would want to keep my family safe. So all these little things, even though you don't think it's a big deal, when you look at your competition of who else is renting, you want to always look better. And that's the way you craft your listing, to say, hey, It's a safe neighborhood, great neighbors, lots of parking. So all these things that you would be interested in as an end user, you know, would you live there? So I know that's not everybody.
Yeah. No, I have the same motto. If I cannot live in the property, there's no way that nobody else is gonna live there. But believe me, when I was looking for my first property, I saw some things that I was like, wow, there's no way that I would live here, or I would even try to rent this property.
Of course, same.
Outdated bathrooms, kitchens, but I'm not talking about old. I'm talking about really outdated, old, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know how they could live there, to be honest with you. So
I know, you'd be really surprised like what some people will be, especially I find students are willing to live in basements and furnace rooms and terrible things like that are not allowed, you know, with the human rights code. Like, this is really, you really want to have that safe space. And it's not just safe in the sense it's a safe neighborhood, but also safe as far as you know, the environment and the air that they breathe and the lights. Make sure that, like, we're not slumlords here, you know, let's talk about that. So if you're a slumlord, you're on your own. Do what you want. But as a professional person, and it's obviously it's my job too to help landlords, so I always want to make sure that my landlords follow these rules as well, and they say the right things and they do the right things with their listings and their properties.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's part of it.
Hope that helped.
Yeah, or getting a good and a nice tenant. It's important for you to continue to have that cash flow coming in, right? Because
that's right.
You want them to be happy, and the best way is that you have a nice working apartment or house, whatever it is that your investment property is, and you'll have good tenants, especially right now that everybody needs to feel safer, right, in where they are living. So,
and that's the thing, like, you won't have a problem renting it if it's a nice, clean, safe space. You'll have great tenants coming and looking at the property. So always keep that in mind. Who do you want to attract, and really, you know, be a nice landlord. Come on.
That's nice. Well, thank you, Colette, for putting this together. That actually helps a lot. So we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for being here on the show. Please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when there are more shows available. And if you would like to have more information on how to start investing in real estate, please visit my website at www.aracelihernandez.com. Thank you.